Let's see, what else?
Creativity.
Ooh.
Creativity process. Hold
Yeah,
on, I
what?
got more notes.
All right. Yeah, I'm all for notes.
I got notes because I got stuff. Hold on. All right. So
So what is your
I
creativity process, Carla?
what's that?
I said, what is your creativity process, Carla?
Creativity process. Well, it's funny because I said I was speaking to this business mentor woman, and she's kind of woo woo. So it was like it was very interesting, and she was saying, well, you should write down your process, and I had like a notes of like my business plan. I was right, and I was having like a Zoom conversation with her, and I was holding that up, and I realized no later when I was watching the replay, I realized no, she didn't mean she wanted to see the business plan or that I needed to write down the business plan and the ideas as they come up because I had plenty of those, but also my process, like what am I going through? What are my thought processes? And it occurred to me later, I was like, oh, that's what she meant. So I started writing that down. That's something totally different. And since you and I wanted to talk about creativity too, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait
Yeah,
to
I want to
share
hear
some of
this.
my. So as I said, I'm thinking about like law of attraction and astrology and stuff that's like a little more mystical, and but like one question that I was putting in my journal. So journaling will be maybe one of the first things I talk about. Journaling, using that as just a space to just write. Like, what are you thinking? What do you want to do? What do you think you might want to do? I don't know. You're just letting your brain and your hands just go places and brainstorm by yourself, and that can be actually quite powerful. And yesterday I wrote the question, how woo do you want to get? And I mean, I just wrote that in the whole page, and I don't exactly know yet, but so I'm still, so that's part of the part of the process that I'm going through now. Like I'm having like this is like my woo meter, like my
Uh-huh.
woo meter. It's like
The
how
scale
woo do you
from
want to
0 to
get,
100 woo.
because I mean I know that there's going to be people that I will alienate, and although people you say that uh, someone else's opinion is not your business, blah blah blah. But still, there's you don't like the thought of losing people,
I
but
have a
like the
question
more,
for you on that.
yeah.
So if you had to just make a piece of content about that right now on a scale from 0 to 100, how woo would it be? What is your gut?
I'm leaning right now towards like law of attraction with the twist of woo.
A twist being like 25% woo,
What's that?
10%, 10% woo, 25% woo,
Ooh,
80% woo, like very woo.
man. Ah,
Just pick one.
maybe like 70% woo.
All right, 70% woo. So if it was me, I would do 70% woo. And again, I know this is easier said than done, but 70% woo, that's your gut. Do that. And then as you get feedback from your audience, make it go up or down and just adjust over the years.
I knew. See, I had a feeling that having this conversation with you would be really helpful. I'm writing that down.
I think it goes back to the quote, 100 pieces of content, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah.
If you knew that the perfect number was 77% woo, and you figured that out, and it took you 2 years to figure that out, and then you made a piece of content and it was perfect, that'd be cool. But if you made it 70% and you made 100 pieces of content and it kept going up and then up to 80, and they're like, oh wait, that's too much, down and then narrow it in with your feedback, I think that's what I would do.
That is amazing, Calvin.
Thank you,
Thank
Carla.
you, thank you. I'm really you kind of confirmed something else for me. So I'm really glad I didn't wait any longer for us to have this conversation, because I feel like this is even becoming part of the process. Just talking about what it is, like just talking out your ideas and just hearing it come out of your mouth, and then
Yep.
also hearing someone else's reaction. And I I guess my other issue was that like I feel like I needed to tell people this is the finished thing, and it's not, and it probably may not be for a while. It's still like because it's like brand new, and for example, I have a domain and I don't really know what to put on it yet. I mean, I have ideas, but I have been feeling lately that perhaps working on Instagram,
Can you say that
with this
again?
blog post.
The
Oh,
connection went out. So what
sure,
was
sure.
that?
So my thought is to try that out on Instagram. So instead
Oh,
of thinking about the
testing.
Instagram and the blog, like just not worry about the blog yet, because the blog's not even really, I mean, it's not much more than a domain and a WordPress theme.
Uh-huh.
It's nothing else. So the idea is to keep Instagramming and using that
That's
as,
perfect.
because Instagram is very flexible when you think about it. Instagram, you can change as you go, and it's very fluid in its own way. So I feel like I'll start. Well, actually, I've already started. And it's called Queen Up Club. QUEENUPCLUB. Queen Up Club. That's on Instagram, and I have been using
And this
that.
is through your profile, or is this a separate profile? Or is
Uh,
this a hashtag, or how is that
it's a profile. It's a I don't know,
handle?
what do you call it? It's
Yeah.
a profile handle.
Yeah, probably
Profile,
handle.
yeah, on Instagram. It's its own thing, and I've been doing it for a few weeks now, maybe a couple months now. It's really new, and I've just been like, feeling myself go different ways and not really sure. But I think you're right. Just keep doing it on Instagram and seeing how I feel. Like, I'm also now starting to follow other people who are a little more woo, and I'm seeing, like, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. That looks really cool. And just seeing those communities, but really feeling it out. So not feeling like I have to do anything, because I would like to monetize it eventually. But the issue I'm having right now is the other problem I'm having is, what problem am I solving? And
Okay.
there's different ways I could go. And I think by, as you said, doing the 80%, doing
A
the,
lot of content at 80%.
yeah, doing the content from where I am right now will help direct me where I want to eventually go. So I think just to start now and not wait
I think it's
till.
brilliant that you're using Instagram to test out your idea and to get feedback before you spend a lot of time also doing that on your website and other places.
Yeah,
So I
because
think that's a perfect idea.
well, I think it's weighing me down if I think I have to do both.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel
for
like,
sure. It would me.
I want to. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. So.
I had a thought about your 6 topic things, and
Mhm.
this is just my opinion. So you have 6 topics, and then you mentioned like you also cook sometimes. So that could have been
Mhm.
a 7th topic, but you're
Right, right,
sticking
right.
with 6, right?
I don't really, but
Yeah, but that for an example.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so my thought is you do the 6 and you figure out, like you're testing with the woo woo stuff on Instagram, you figure out what's working, what's not working. You could like 6 topics, but maybe you find out over the next 3 to 5 years that you weed 1 or 2 of them out. Like, even though you like them, people don't find the content as helpful. And
That's
if you
a
spend
very
time,
good point.
yeah, if you spend time working on that content, then that's time loss, or not time not spent on the 3 that are working very well, or 4 or 5 or however many. So
I
I
think
would
that's a
suggest like just paying attention, putting out the content and then paying attention to the feedback, whether that be likes and shares or time spent on videos or people private messaging you like, hey, this was super helpful, or whatever feedback you get.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yes, it might go down to 3 based on the feedback that comes back. I totally am hearing that. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And like for me personally, I have the creative, caring, and competitive, and most of my content has been creative and caring so far. I'm wanting to get more competitive stuff, but maybe it happens where only 10% of my content's competitive and 70%'s one and 20%'s the other. It's just whatever I feel like the audience is finding more useful, and also just at the time what I'm more interested in too,
Sure,
which is important.
sure, sure.
Um,
And actually, I have 3 words that I had looked at that have been
brewing.
rumbling around.
Uh-huh.
Inspiring, inspiring, enchanting, and aspirational. Like, so those are the three things.
Ooh.
Like, for example, I want people to feel
Enchanting sounds
inspired.
so good for the woo-woo stuff. I love that word. That's awesome.
Exactly. So, like, inspiring, I think those could be quotes. But aspirational, like things that people would like to do, things that, goals or big things that people would like. So aspirational things that make people think like I would like to do that. And enchanting, things that look, mystical, woo-woo. So those inspiring, enchanting, and aspirational, like those are the three words or adjectives that I'm looking at right now.
What about some, as far as aspirational, what about some behind, you might have content on this, I don't know.
Oh
But
no, I'm
you're a musician, and what about some behind the scenes, like,
yes.
I'm about to go play a set, here's what I'm feeling, and just basically making that 1-minute video or whatever piece of content you make, so that aspiring musicians can know kind of what normal feelings other musicians feel before going on set, no matter how
Sure.
long they've
Yes.
been doing it. Stuff like
Yes.
that is kind of, that works for your 3 words.
Now you're saying videos?
Oh, whatever. Like Pete Holmes, he's a comedian, and he had this quote. I'm gonna butcher it, but it was basically like, whatever the content is meant to be, let it be that. Like, don't try to force it into something. So if it's just you wanting to say, hey, Instagram, here's, I'm feeling anxious about this set. I practiced a lot, and I'm, my best friend's in the crowd, and I want to show them how good I am, and I'm nervous even though I've been doing this for however long. Or if it's like a full-blown WordPress post, a blog post, like, here's 10 common things that I feel before going on set. And here's a bit about me, and here's, what I used to feel when I started, here's what I feel now, or I don't know, just whatever the content is, make it based on whatever it should be. If that makes sense.
That makes great sense. You Coach Calvin.
That made my day.
I'm taking notes. All kinds of notes.
Well, good. I love coaching.
Yeah. Behind the scenes. That's definitely aspirational. And so behind the scenes is aspirational.
Yeah, very much so. I actually want to do that. One of the things that I made my personal brand, that I was excited for making my personal brand, is so that I could start making content about me being a coach, so that, other people can see what it's like being a coach, and also learn about what pickleball is. And, so I can have pieces of content on my site and YouTube and whatever, so I can just point them to something that's helpful versus me kind of slumbering through trying to explain it, because it's kind of hard to explain. I don't have a good
I had never heard about it before today.
Yeah. So, but it would be nice. One of the things I'm working on is actually creating content about that, so that people can know about it, and I could just point them to a piece of helpful content that I made, versus me like, well, it's well, which is kind of what I do right now.
Well, also similarly to batching, if it makes sense, you can also do things in themes. So if you wanted to do pickleball month, and then create, say this month I'm going to be focused on pickleball, whether you show it or just work on it.
Right.
You could say, okay, this is the month I'm going to do pickleball mania, and do all kinds of pickleball content. You could do that, and then the next month it'll be on tennis, or something else.
And now I'm in a creative mood. Now I'm gonna coaching.
I'm gonna talk about coaching this week. I'm gonna create a lot of content.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Themes. I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah, themes.
Coach Carla.
Hey.
You became a coach today.
Oh, so let's see. Wait, I had what's the other thing I have for you? My process. Where did I start? The process. That was only one, because I mentioned journaling. Journaling is good, like brainstorming for one. I have silence, meditation.
Hey, Carla, sorry, I want to pause this recording.
Oh, okay.
Restart it, because something in me is like, well, was it too long yesterday? Anyway.
Okay, sure.
We'll pick up with the second one. just to recap, your first idea was journaling, and your second creative idea, or your way to think of ideas creatively, was
to silence, meditation. You know, if you sometimes you just need to listen. You know, listen to your what's going on in your brain. You know, in the back of your brain, and but you know, I don't really have a good order of these things. But
that's okay.
everyone's
I will say, over the last couple of days, I've started listening to positive affirmations at night and in the morning. Not every night, not every morning, but I try to most nights. And not really, I mean, really just because it makes sense to my head that if you hear good things, then your brain will get rewired to think good things. And when you're around a bunch of negative people and negative thoughts, then your thoughts get kind of sucked down to that level too. So I try to, at the end of the day, particularly on a hard day, end with positivity, whether that be through, you know, I use YouTube just for positive affirmations, and then I find whatever in the morning and at night. And that seemed to help. I mean, it's not like a miracle, but it's definitely improves my life by a little bit, which is what I'm wanting.
Well, I mean, to get a little woo-woo on you, you know, by any time that you go to YouTube to listen to those positive, you know, affirmations, you are making the choice. You are making the decision that you want to raise that vibration, because there's so much negativity going on, you know, in the world, and there's just so much, you know, there's just so much going on. I don't even need to go into that. And it's so important that we make that decision to go the opposite direction and look for the positive, you know, to go to YouTube and look for those positive affirmations, you know, or those great videos by, you know, Oprah and Maya Angelou, and like those things just really bring me, those particular videos happen to bring me up. And but it's so important, though, as you're saying, though, because you are making that choice. And it's so easy to just get sucked into the negativity and the hate that can be surrounding us day by day by day by day. So when you make that choice to listen, to look for positive affirmations and to repeat them to yourself, or to have a gratitude list, or any of those things, you are making the decision to raise, you know, your positivity, your vibration, and that is so important. And I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Choosing not to get sucked in.
And I know we've talked about woo-woo a lot, but can you kind of just give me a breakdown of woo-woo? I mean, I kind of have a sense of it, but what is your definition of woo-woo?
It's even just talking about it, I feel so weird about it, because I'm just like, oh my God, Calvin's gonna get like weirded out. I don't know.
I'm probably the last person that will get weirded out by something.
That's good, because
I'm completely non-judgmental. So okay. I'm just curious. I want to know, like, what, because like I've had friends that, you know, they believe in this stones and astrology, and I mean, I honestly, I just feel kind of like I don't know enough to talk about it, so I'm kind of wanting to know from a beginner's standpoint what all that entails.
Sure. Okay, so I guess the woo comes from, it all starts with tapping into what is called the divine feminine, and that there's a belief that feminine energy has power, because, you know, women have intuition, for example.
Do men have feminine, this woo-woo? Because do men also have this feminine energy?
They do have men do have instinct. They do. But women have this kind of instinctual intuition thing it doesn't always make sense. It's something that we could just feel, and there's a power in that. And women, when they kind of tap into that part of them, they're often interested into things like astrology, or the law of attraction, or, you know, crystals, like your friend might be in, or, you know, they might be, you know, into, like, you know, witchy stuff. Woo could Reiki healing, like some people are healers.
She was into that too.
What's that?
She was into that too. So I know, like, I've learned a little bit about it, but I didn't know what all. That's good. I'm glad that you're explaining it. Keep going.
Yeah. So when people are talking about energy healing, like Reiki is the process of I really don't know that much about it, but it's the process of putting healing energetic rays to people just by thinking and feeling. And many people believe in that and feel it and are very grateful for it. So, that's definitely woo. When you talk about, having crystals that are believed to um, amplify certain energies around you. That's what crystals do. So different crystals, like everyone has heard, or I shouldn't say everyone, but one popular crystal is the rose quartz, and rose quartz stands for love. So if you have a rose quartz near you, or maybe some women like to wear it on their heart, because it's also near their heart chakra. Um, or we'll get into chakras later. um, it amplifies love in their life and romance. And again, chakras are energy points in the body. Like, I don't know a lot about all this. Like, there's so much stuff I still don't know. I know of it, and I appreciate it. And I'm
And
like,
you're
wow,
interested in it. And
yeah,
that's
it's very interesting. But I mean,
it's actually really, I think that one of the best ways to actually create content is to create it as you're learning it, because then you naturally will answer the questions that new people will have to it.
Sure.
And you're doing a great job of explaining it to me. I know you said you feel like you still don't know a lot about it, but you're teaching me a lot about it.
Oh, thank you. It's all
You're
relative.
welcome. Yeah. I've meditated quite a bit before, and I've heard chakras and all this energy stuff. And for me, my take on the woo stuff, just from the little I know about it, I would say it seems like it's just people tapping into their spiritual self.
Yes.
Which that makes a lot of sense. And that's something that I think maybe I've been lacking a bit in the last 8 or 9 years. Growing up, I was heavy into my religious beliefs, and then that kind of went away over my adulthood. And sometimes I go in and out and replace those feelings with kind of more of me. I guess I would call it my woo-woo stuff. So meditation or the positive affirmations. And so I get it. Like, I'm a fan. It's like one of those things. I'm a fan. I didn't know that I was a fan of woo-woo stuff until you explained what woo-woo stuff was. Yeah, I do woo-woo stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and as I say before, like there's a whole gamut. You could go so far, and you just have to be open to that spiritual side, and that doesn't mean that you have to do everything or like or even believe everything that you see. There's a lot of stuff that I see that I'm like, really, I don't know, and that's okay. You go by whatever feels good for you, and I think people have such a need to. I think many people feel that there is more to life than just what we see, just what we can touch, and that there's something else. We don't know what it is, but there's something else. And I think that something else exists. I don't know what it is. And I feel that many of us, I want to say, acknowledge that something's there and we want to touch it or be closer to it. And that desire is sometimes corrected by religion. You know what I mean? So you have a lot of people who might have been very, in touch with their beliefs or their churches growing up, or, but they realize, wait a second, now I'm, X years old, and I don't know if I don't know how I feel about that, and they have different feelings about that, and they go away from their from their church of origin, for example, but yet they still have that need. We all have that need. We want something. We know something is there. So I think we all kind of find our way to the divine, whatever that is. So for some people, it's crystals. They're like, I believe that crystals come from the earth, therefore they're powerful, and whatever. And different people have different beliefs, and you and I don't have to agree. And it's just woo, it's woo.
One of my big things on the woo. Oh, sorry, you were cutting out. Were you still going?
Yeah, but I was just saying that everybody has their thing. We don't have to agree, and that's okay.
Yeah, I'm never really, especially the older I get, I'm really like, I try to understand what people believe in and what they like in life, but I never like, if you believe in it, that's cool. It doesn't really affect
Mm-hmm.
my perception of you, and that like because you believe in woo woo stuff that we can't be friends. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
I'm usually just like, oh, I don't know about that. I want to learn more because I'm really
Mm-hmm.
curious. For my take on the whole woo woo thing, and even just mental health and mental muscles. I mean, my analogy that I've come up with over the last couple of years is, when someone goes and lifts weights at the weight room, they do 10 pounds, and then they get stronger, they do 15 pounds, and then they do 20, and then 25. You can see that, and you can actually see their muscle grow, right? Their
Mm-hmm.
physical muscles are growing. You're like, and so people naturally will think, oh, that makes sense. That guy's getting stronger. That lady's getting stronger. They're working out, and you can tell when you're doing what you might call woo woo stuff, and just building your spiritual muscle or your mental power. Your head doesn't actually get bigger, and you can't see like, oh, Carla must have really been doing a good job meditating this last month because her brain is huge. You can't see that. So what happens is people just think that it doesn't exist. They don't believe that you can get stronger mentally. But as someone that has been retired and not been, I've gone months without kind of been stimulated with my brain, and that has led to somewhat of depression states for me personally. I definitely am a fan of, I have to work out my brain. I have to work out my mental side of my person as well as the physical side of my person, because it all matters. But you just don't see it as much when it's mental. You can't see it with your eyes. So people have a tendency of just thinking subconsciously, even sometimes, that it just doesn't exist, but that's not true. And so then we use these words like woo woo when really like it is actual thing. We just can't see it. So people think it's made up. And then people that actually believe in it, which I believe in that stuff, we seem kind of crazy to the people that don't see it. Yeah, does that make sense? That's my take on a lot
Yes,
of
it
it.
did. And back to personal branding, to go back there, um, when you put yourself out there, you're going to alienate some people, but then you are going to be loved by the people who are also into what you are into.
I agree with that.
So taking that step towards your head and say, yeah, people, there's nothing wrong with being who you are, and and you attract people that way because you're being who you really are. And this is a real life. You need to be all things to all people. It's just sort of blunt.
I think something you said, like when you're building a personal brand, to focus on doing what your true self is and creating that content, and then naturally having the same type of people come to you in that content is way better than you trying to put out a piece of content and then someone doesn't like it. So then you try to put the next piece of content for the person that didn't like it, versus
Yeah.
making more content for the people that did like it but might not have told you they liked it, which
Right.
a lot more people than usually, in my experience, usually the people that like it are the majority, but the people that you remember are the people that didn't like it, which is the minority. So that can definitely twist your brain to thinking, oh, I need to make this content different because this one person or these two people or three people were very rude about how I made that piece of content.
Well, but at the same time, as you're saying, look at the feedback that you're getting. So yeah, you're going to get some people who are like, you are stupid, or I really, you're weird or whatever. But there's going to be some people who are like, wow, this is really great. Oh my goodness, I totally knew what you mean. Hashtag preach, whatever. And that's also the feedback that you were talking about, okay, so what are the things that people are really feeling that don't go by the people, because the people who don't like you, they're not going to like you no matter what you do. So what is the content that you're putting out that is getting a positive reaction? Are you engagement? That's another part that's very important. And I haven't really done a lot of that because I'm still working on what the heck my brand is before I like really go out. But also the success of a personal brand does also include your engagement. So, you know, who's liking and commenting on on your feed, you know, who's liking and commenting on your, you know, on your post. But it's also, you have to also go to where some of your people are, and you also engage with them. So it's, you know, it's definitely a two-way street, but you want people not just, we're not creating content just to be in a vacuum. We want to interact with people. It's important to interact with people. So as a brand, you know, you don't want to just be like, I'm this untouchable person, because that's not interesting.
Right.
You want to interact with people. There's people that you like, you know, give them a thumbs up. You know,
You're definitely
a thing, but that's also how people find you. I know I'm talking a lot about Instagram today because it's kind of, I've been crushing on Instagram for the past almost year. So like I'm really.
It's a good one to crush on right now. I think.
What's that?
It's a good one to crush on, I think, right now. Like I've been learning it over about the last year too, and I've really liked it a lot more than I thought, because I like photography, and I like storytelling through pictures and short videos. And to me, it takes a lot of the pressure off of, I have to make this 20-minute video, or, you know, this long piece of 5,000 word content. And then it's just like, I just write some words and take a picture of your day and show it to people. Like, that's interesting to me.
Yeah. Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yep. Dang it, I had something I was gonna ask you, and then I forgot it. I started talking.
Okay, I got plenty.
Okay, we'll just keep going.
Okay, well, remember, because I think I was going to ask you something too. You were talking about meditation. Oh, it is. We'll get around to it. So, so also in the process, this creative process is like, say if you're creating something, you have something new that you want to do. I'm just gonna go through some different steps that you might want to do. If you're feeling stuck, especially if you're feeling stuck, these are some tips. And I kind of feel like the process isn't linear at all, because I kind of wrote them down and kind of how I'm doing them, and they don't make any sense, but they're so darn helpful. So my process for doing something new, like when I'm planning a new project, a new, you know, album, or right now I'm working on a new brand, and it's like it's there, but I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I'm doing. So my list here. So it's silence, meditation. That's like when you just go into the silence and listen to what's going on. Like turn off all the noise that's going on around you and just listen. You know, just like, what do I need to do? What, you know, and that's just tapping into yourself. You know, I think we all have such wisdom within ourselves, and that's very woo. But I feel that we often know what the answers are, and when we're like, oh, well, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And we're asking all these different people, when the answers are often very much right inside us. So,
yeah, a lot of times we know what to do, but maybe we're being lazy about, we know it's going to take a lot of work. And so we come up with all these excuses. Yeah, I do that for sure.
yeah. So just to take some time in the silence and listen to what the mothership is trying to tell you. Silence meditation. Some people who are into woo-woo, they might like divination. So divination are things like tarot cards. They'll go to a tarot card reader, or they'll go to a psychic. You know, this is for the woo-woo people. This isn't for everybody. But you know, if you're feeling like I'm dealing with, how do I deal with two men that I'm seeing, and I want to decide which one. You know, you're just, you know, whatever your issue is. Some people like to use divination in the form of like tarot cards, psychic. Or some kind of oracle, you know, angel cards, you know, to get some kind of sign. So that's just one way, but it doesn't have to be the only way. Journal, I mentioned that. Journaling is a great way for doing either stream of conscious writing, where you write down whatever comes to your mind without thinking about it, and then you review the paper later and you're like, oh my goodness, that's what I was thinking. So that can be really helpful. Talk to a mentor. You know, talk to someone who is experienced in something that you are going through. Like if you're struggling with a particular issue, or you're trying to create something, you know, talk to another artist. You know, if
So
you're an
that's
artist.
why I have you and Sheila come on the podcast, so I can
Thank you.
have my mentors on.
Oh, it was fantastic. But you know what? In addition to talking to a mentor, I'd also say talk to other people. So, like, you've been a really great example of that during this conversation or our conversation today, that just talking to another person, regardless of what their niche is. There's someone that likes you, someone that you have some kind of similarity. Like, you know, we both like personal branding, for example. Um, Talking to you has been really helpful because you're giving me some food for thought. And I'm
Good.
writing down and I'm taking notes. So I'd say talk to a mentor, but also talk to similar-minded people. You know, like, you know, people that you trust. You can't talk to everybody. People who appreciate your path and hear yourself speak, but also take the time to listen. Listen to what the other person is saying, especially when you're speaking with someone, or especially when the advice is coming from, you know, someone that you respect, someone who is experienced. Listen to them, even if it doesn't seem like it's making sense. They're ahead of the game, so just listen and see, you know. And then also when you talk to other people, listen to them because they are not you, and they're going to notice something or have a point of view or perspective that you hadn't thought of. Like, you know, you were saying, like, how much woo do you want to be? And you're asking me, like, well, how do you feel? 75, 85, 50%, you know? And I hadn't thought of that, but I was asking myself that question, how woo do I want to be? And, you know, just from talking to you, I'm like, well, 70%. Wow. You know, if you look at my current brand at Internet Famous VIP, there's no woo in there whatsoever.
Right?
None.
Maybe next meditation session you can really focus on that and figure out that number that
But
you
it's
want to
really
start with.
boring. So, you know, but maybe that is what I'm missing. So
Maybe start raising that woo level on Internet VIP.
Perhaps I will. Like, what I didn't do this year, but I've done the past 2 years, I did a online success challenge, and that would be kind of woo, actually. And this year I didn't do it because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And actually, one friend of mine is like, "Well, what happened to the thing that you did on the New Year?" And I was like, "Oh." I do like a 10-day challenge from the day after Christmas to January 4th, the 10-day challenge, online success challenge. And I'm talking about things like your vision and
yeah, that's
beating the
good.
terror
That's
barrier.
it.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Actually.
Yeah. I think I
It
remember
is.
you doing those. I don't remember if I was in a spot where I participated for all
I
of it.
don't know, but I suppose that might have been planting a seed that I didn't even realize, because I remember when I put it together, I thought, this is so unlike any of the other stuff I'm doing, but I really like to do it. So I suppose that's
important. And you found out that you have people through that stream, that audience, that also were into it. So that's a good realization.
Yeah. So, you know, I
That's
have to
awesome.
look at that.
I want to add something real quick before I forget. So as far as, you know, listening to others, and you mentioned this, but I just want to point out my point of view. When you're listening to mentors, and this is maybe me being kind of like a wild child or whatever you want to call me, I don't really like going by the book, so to speak. So what I do, and again, use this at your own risk, but whenever I have someone like a mentor, I super am interested in what they're saying. And I'm super interested in learning from people that have been around the same business for a while. But I also know that sometimes people develop habits that might not be helpful for them or might not be helpful in my particular case. So I'm definitely very open-minded, no matter with the experience level. If I'm talking to someone that's been around for 20, 30 years in that industry, I'm still very interested in what they say, but also more interested in how it applies to me in my particular case. The same way I'm interested in someone that's just starting out and learning. You know, it'd be like me teaching someone that's 60 years old in tennis versus me teaching someone that's 6 years old in tennis, and both looking at both levels and trying to learn how I can apply that to my life in my particular case. So I just wanted to point out, like, some people, I think they and I'm not saying you do this, but some people, they might have a mentor and think, oh, I have to do it exactly like this because that's what they did. And it worked for them. But that's not always, I don't like putting myself in a box like that. And so I want to encourage other people to know that you don't have to feel like that. Even if someone is like, well, this worked for me, so this is how you need to do it. Like, well, maybe you can do a slight different version of that. But just wanted to throw that out there as my kind of I don't like going by the book head.
Yes. That's great. Actually, it's two things that you just reminded me of. I so agree with that, because now, as I was saying before, that my list here, my process is not in order. And that is why I said, talk to people, talk to people, talk to your friends or talk to a mentor. Oh, I didn't mention research, like do some research, some wool gathering, as I call it. Like
I like that term.
What I say?
Wool gathering,
like the wool, you're going out and getting the wool. And for those of you who don't know, and the thing is, I'm a city girl, but I just happen to know this, that sheep, like they're always scratching themselves on stuff, so they leave lots of wool behind from their fur, so people go back. So I guess the wool folk would go and get the wool from where they would go pick it off, or they send the kids to go pick the wool, and then they bring it back to the home, and then the mother would make woolen sweaters out of those. So I mean, it was that much. So yeah. So I learned that little factoid.
That's
anyway,
a fun factoid.
So wool gathering is like when you're doing research. You're doing Google searches, and you're going to museums, and you're reading a lot of subjects. You're going to the library and just spending a lot of time working on, looking at a particular thing. Or maybe you go to Barnes and Noble and you're reading a whole bunch of books, as if they still have Barnes and Noble where you are now. Or you go on Amazon, whatever, and you're looking at these different topics. Like you're researching, this is the creative process. But at some point, you do have to come back to the silence and just listen. What feels good for you? Just because you're right, just because your mentor said this, or just because someone famous said that, does that resonate with you? Do you really want to do that? And so silence is definitely, it's like I have to go back and forth from it, because I'll get a whole bunch of ideas, and then it'll kind of mess me up in the head, because then I'll be like, oh, wait, I could do this. And then I have to come back to the silent place, to the still place, and say, what do I really want to do? Let me think about this for a second. Let me chill before I take that action. So silence is definitely part of that. And back to what you were saying about like listening to mentors or listening to things that like people who have been around a while. I saw this great quote by Gary Vee. We were talking about Gary Vee, and it said something like, market like the time that you're in. I'm paraphrasing it. Basically, he's saying market like people do right now. Like you might have been in, say for example, people are like, oh, I wanted to be an Amazon blogger, and not really understand that, yes, that was a really big deal then. But right now it has changed, and the amount of money that you can make has just decreased. So you have to find out, what are people doing now? So what are people doing now? A lot of people are doing some really interesting things on Instagram right now. And that's where I am right now.
Like what?
What's that?
Like what interesting things are they doing on Instagram?
Oh, interesting things about being really creative. I really love the thing. I'm like, when I say I'm crushing on Instagram, like I have this huge crush on other people's pictures. And I love looking at how creative people are with their pictures, from things they do with Photoshop. There's like this family that is a family of 5. I don't even know where they're from. They all dress up in a similar kind of outfit, but then they Photoshop pieces of food in front of them. I don't know. There's another family. They do like these scenes on a sheet on the floor, and I guess they have some kind of crane camera. But they have the thing, like they have the kid doing things like flying in the sky, but it's all done with like sheets. It's just really creative pictures. It's just like, wow. Or these mommy and me pictures, or there's this family of 3 women. I mean, I think there's more of them, but there's 3 women. It's the mother,
oldest daughter and her youngest daughter, and they do like stair step, all dressed alike or dressed in a similar kind of theme. It's just like all these very creative, or let's see, a lot of decor, like inner decor, home decor. There we go. Like there's this feed I like where they do. It's like a very small house. I mean, a very small apartment, I think. And the person does. What do? They do. They're in a small house, and it's a woman. She does a lot of upcycling and recycling, I guess, like vintage wear. So she'll bring stuff home, and then she'll change the corner shelf into something, and she'll take a picture, and then maybe she'll sell it or something. And then the next time we see the same section, it's got Christmas lights and different, so she's using her space as a model for Instagram. So I mean, like all this kind of creativity on Instagram.
And how are people monetizing their creativity in Instagram here in 2000?
Well, in her case, for example, she sells a lot of the items. She has a website or something, so she might sell a lot of those items on her website.
Cool.
So people have like a Poshmark website. So I guess it's kind of like eBay, but it's like for nice clothes. So they'll have really cool fashion-looking things, designs on Instagram, and they link to their Poshmark page where they sell it, where people resell vintage items. They have a product that they're selling, it's a store that has really cool graphics, and you get into it and you're like, oh, I want to buy from them. So I've been really fascinated with what people are doing with their pictures and monetizing it. So that's.
Have you thought about doing that with gemstones or the crystals or?
Well, I'm not into crystals. Crystals aren't my thing, but I was thinking I would put pictures of them on there because I follow people that I follow crystal pages because they're so beautiful. Like some of these, my thing is like I don't like to have a lot of stuff if I can help it. So, so these women, they just happen to be women, I suppose. They have crystals. They have like these gorgeous collections, but I think they're also stores. At least I hope they're stores because they have these beautiful decorations or grids or I don't know, made out of crystals. And I'm like, that's a lot of crystals to be buying. I'm like, I just don't see myself buying a lot of crystals. I'm not into crystals, but I know that some people really are. But what I'm saying is I'd be very happy to share someone else's picture from Instagram on some gorgeous crystals, but I don't have to buy them myself. So that curation is another thing, another topic.
That would be interesting, you taking the pictures of the crystals?
Like, I don't have to take the pictures. So what I'm learning. What?
I see. You just sharing other people's pictures.
Yes.
I see.
So, yes. So you can do that when you give them credit, or maybe you ask them. I'm still learning on how that works, but there are a lot of photographers or pages, a lot of pages on Instagram or feeds, accounts, I don't know what you call them, that do like you to share their stuff. So I think when you make a connection with a friendship or relationship with another person on Instagram that has the kind of content you like, that's another thing to think about. You can curate your content. You don't have to just create it yourself. And I think it's a good idea to tag the person who really, who took the picture, give them credit, because it's also back and forth. And then also they can send people back to you, and it's good karma. So, when people who like send pictures but use other people's pictures but don't credit the author, I think that's kind of whack. But I think it's good to share that wealth, and it's good karma, and it brings people back to your site.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a good strategy of gaining your audience for Instagram particularly.